Thank you, and good morning, Madam Chair. And Senators, thank you for considering SB 1242, which aims to provide guidance and clarity to the Board of Parole in the consideration of possible parole for inmates serving life sentences through the codification of important elements in the parole hearing process that will ensure greater transparency, increased protections for victims, and meticulous scrutiny of inmates being considered for parole. Under California law, life sentences may be imposed by the judiciary for either committing or conspiring to commit crimes of an especially heinous and cruel nature, including sex crimes against children, murder, aggravated assault, kidnapping, and rape. Depending on the severity of the crime and the determination of the sentencing judge, individuals convicted of such acts may be sentenced to either life with or without parole. In instances where an inmate serving a sentence of life with the possibility of parole has served a sufficient period of time, the Board of Parole Hearings is responsible for conducting parole hearings and then, based upon the results of those proceedings, ruling on the inmate's suitability for parole. When making the determination of whether an inmate should be granted or denied parole, a parole panel takes into consideration several factors, including the gravity of the offense committed, the inmate's criminal history, their social history, psychological factors, and current medical conditions, their institutional behavior, and the overall quality and progress of the inmate's rehabilitative efforts while in prison. The parole process, which by design seeks to apply equal measures, mercy, and dispassionate analysis, is not perfect. Under Governor Brown's tenure, the number of inmates granted parole has risen dramatically. In 2016 alone, nearly 820 inmates serving life sentences were granted parole, compared to just 119 in 2007. By statute, anytime a lifer is granted parole, the governor is then required to review that decision. Upon review, the governor may do the following: affirm the decision, refer the panel's decision to the full board for another review, or take no action. Further, in those circumstances where an inmate convicted of murder is recommended for parole, the governor has the authority to reverse or modify that decision. Since January 1st, 2014, the board has, on 10 separate occasions, granted questionable parole dates to inmates convicted of heinous crimes, raising serious questions about the risks posed to communities by the release of those inmates in question. In each of those cases, applying a thoughtful and deliberate reasoning process, Governor Brown ultimately overturned those grants. Moreover, in fulfilling his obligation to review such grants, Governor Brown has been meticulous and thorough, rendering a series of decisions that reflect a sober and thoughtful analysis of the cases that have come before him. SB 1242 would build off the straightforward and objective methodology employed by our current governor to ensure that in cases where the parole board considers granting parole to inmates serving life sentences in the future, the following parameters will be applied: that the inmate has been free from disciplinary actions for a reasonable period of time prior to the hearing, that the inmate has remorse and insight into the nature of the crime for which he or she has been convicted, unless the inmate asserts his or her factual innocence of the crime, that the inmate has not minimized his or her role in the crime and is credible about his or her role in the crime, that the inmate has made changes that clearly demonstrate a departure from their prior criminality, that the inmate has demonstrated positive activities while in custody, and that the inmate has developed realistic post-release plans to avoid relapse or the pursuit of other conduct that contributed to prior criminality. The application of a wise and well-considered approach to the review of parole hearings is among the many ways that California has benefited from the service of Governor Brown. As members of the Board of Parole discharge their responsibilities in the conduct of future hearings, they would be well served to do the same. The codification of these eminently reasonable and proven practices through SB 1242 will ensure that they do, thereby protecting California citizens while maintaining current parole processes. I respectfully ask for your aye vote today. With me to testify is John Lovell on behalf of the Los Angeles Professional Peace Officers Association, and Brian Marvel, a San Diego police officer and the president of the Peace Officers Research Association.